Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Big shout out to teacher Ricky for making this show happen. You're the best. And hey, if you're loving these deep dives and finding them useful for your own entrepreneurial journey, hit that subscribe button, like this episode, and share it with your friends. Let's all help each other become the best versions of ourselves, right?
Absolutely. There's nothing better than sharing knowledge and empowering each other.
All right, so this week, we're diving into The Lean Startup by Ries. This book is a goldmine of practical advice for anyone looking to launch and grow a business, especially in today's world where things change faster than, well, things change fast.
What I find fascinating about the lean startup is how it throws the old school playbook out the window. The one that says you need a rigid business plan and tons of market research. Ries argues that in a rapidly changing world, that approach just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, it's like trying to predict the weather 6 months in advance. You're bound to get some things wrong.
Exactly. So Ries proposes a new framework, the lean startup approach. That embraces uncertainty and uses a continuous cycle of learning and adaptation to navigate the unknown.
Okay, so before we go any further, let's define what a lean startup actually is.
Ries defines a startup as a human institution designed to create new products and services under conditions of extreme uncertainty.
Okay, that sounds pretty broad. Does that mean it applies to more than just tech companies in Silicon Valley?
Absolutely. This definition goes way beyond tech startups. It applies to new ventures within large corporations, nonprofits, government agencies. Even your side hustle could benefit from these principles. It's all about embracing uncertainty and adapting to change, wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey.
Got it. So Ries outlines 5 key principles that underpin the lean startup approach.
Yes, and these principles are surprisingly straightforward and practical. First, entrepreneurs are everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're working in a corporate cubicle or tinkering in your garage. If you're creating something new, you're an entrepreneur.
That's empowering. It means anyone can apply these principles. What's the second principle?
Entrepreneurship is a new kind of management built specifically for uncertainty. Instead of clinging to rigid plans, lean startups use a more flexible and adaptive approach.
So it's not just about having a brilliant idea. It's about managing the chaos. That comes with bringing that idea to life. That's where the real skill lies, right?
Precisely. And that leads us to the third principle, validated learning. It's not about blindly building stuff. It's about constantly testing your assumptions and gathering evidence to prove or disprove those assumptions.
That sounds like a really data-driven approach to building a business.
It is, and that brings us to principle number 4, the build, measure, learn feedback loop. It's the heartbeat of a lean startup. You build something small, measure its impact, learn from the data, and then iterate based on what you've learned. It's a continuous cycle of improvement.
Okay, I can see how that cycle would keep you moving forward and prevent you from getting stuck in analysis paralysis.
Right. And finally, we have principle number 5, innovation accounting. I know accounting might not sound super exciting.
Yeah, not exactly the sexiest topic,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling it's more than just crunching numbers.
You're right. It's about measuring real progress, not just vanity metrics. It's about using data to track your learning and make informed decisions about where to invest your time and resources.
So these 5 principles, entrepreneurs are everywhere. Entrepreneurship is a new kind of management. Validated learning, build, measure, learn, and innovation accounting. They form the foundation of the lean startup approach.
Exactly. And when you put these principles into practice, you create a culture of experimentation and continuous learning that can help you navigate the uncertainty of the startup world and build a truly sustainable business.
Okay, all of this sounds great in theory, but I'm sure our listeners are wondering, why do so many startups fail even if they have a great idea?
That's a great question. And Ries argues that one of the biggest reasons startups fail is because they cling to those traditional business plans and market research. In a world that's changing too fast, they get so focused on executing their initial plan that they fail to adapt when the market shifts or customer needs evolve.
They're like a ship trying to navigate by a map that's no longer accurate.
Precisely. And this brings us to a really interesting case study from the book, the story of IMVU, a company that Ries co-founded.
Okay, I'm all ears. What happened?
Well, IMVU started with what they thought was a brilliant idea, an instant messaging add-on featuring 3D avatars. They spent months perfecting the technology, pouring their hearts and souls into building what they thought was the perfect product.
Sounds like they were really passionate about their vision.
They were, but when they finally launched, crickets. Their grand plan flopped.
Ouch. That's got to sting. What went wrong?
They quickly realized that their assumptions about what customers wanted were way off. Customers didn't want an add-on. They wanted a standalone IM network where they could connect with new people. They didn't care about fancy 3D avatars. They cared about building relationships and having fun.
So IMVU's initial plan was based on faulty assumptions about the market and customer needs.
Exactly. And this is a trap that many startups fall into. They get so caught up in their own ideas that they forget to validate those ideas with real customers.
So what did IMVU do? Do they just give up and call it a day?
Not at all. They did what Ries calls a pivot, a change in strategy based on what they learned from their initial failure.
So instead of seeing their initial flop as a defeat, they used it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway for any entrepreneur. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone on the path to success.
I love that. So IMVU pivoted. But how did they make sure they didn't repeat the same mistakes?
That's where the power of validated learning comes in. Instead of relying on their own assumptions, they started using experiments to test their ideas with real customers.
So they got out of the building and started talking to their target market.
Exactly. They conducted user interviews, ran A/B tests on their website, and constantly tweaked their product based on the feedback they received.
I bet that feedback loop was invaluable. It's like having a constant stream of data to guide your decisions.
It is, and one of the key insights IMVU gained through validated learning was that their customers craved a sense of belonging and self-expression.
So they tapped into a deeper emotional need than just the functionality of an IM platform.
Precisely. And this is another important lesson for entrepreneurs. It's not enough to just build a product that works. You need to create a product that resonates with your customers on an emotional level.
Makes sense. People don't just buy products. They buy into stories, emotions, and experiences.
Exactly. And IMVU's story is a powerful example of how validated learning can help you discover those deeper customer needs and create a product that truly connects with your target market.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of validated learning, but how do you actually put it into practice? What are some tangible tools or techniques that our listeners can use?
Well, one of the most effective tools for validated learning is the minimum viable product, or MVP.
Ah, yes, the MVP. It's one of the most buzzworthy terms in the startup world. But what does it really mean?
It's not about building a perfect product or launching with every bell and whistle you can imagine. It's about creating the simplest version of your product that allows you to test your key assumptions with real customers and gather valuable feedback.
So it's like a prototype, a bare bones version of your product, designed for learning, not perfection.
Exactly. And Ries emphasizes that an MVP isn't necessarily about building the smallest or cheapest product possible. It's about building the product that will give you the most valuable insights in the shortest amount of time.
Okay, I can see how that approach would help you avoid wasting time and resources on features that your customers might not even want.
Precisely. And the book gives some great examples of companies that used MVPs effectively, like Groupon. They started with a super basic website and a simple email list to test their idea before building a more sophisticated platform.
That's amazing. It shows that you don't need fancy technology or a huge budget to validate your idea.
Exactly. Another great example is Zappos. In their early days, they didn't even have an inventory of shoes. They would simply take orders from customers, go to local shoe stores to buy the shoes, and then ship them directly to the customer.
So they essentially acted as a concierge service to test their assumption that people would buy shoes online. That's brilliant.
It is, and that's a perfect example of a concierge MVP, a type of MVP where you manually provide the service to your customers to test your assumptions and gather valuable feedback.
Okay, so we have concierge MVPs. Are there other types of MVPs?
There are. Another type is the piecemeal MVP, where you cobble together existing tools and services to create a functional prototype of your product. This is a great way to test your idea without building everything from scratch.
So it's like building a Lego castle, using existing pieces to create something new and see how it holds up.
Exactly. And the key with any MVP is to focus on your riskiest assumptions, the ones that, if proven wrong, would invalidate your entire business model.
That makes sense. It's like testing the foundation of your house before you build the rest of it.
Right. And by testing those assumptions early and often, you can avoid wasting time and resources on a product that nobody wants.
Okay, I can see how MVPs are a powerful tool for validated learning. But I have a feeling some of our listeners might be thinking, what if my MVP is too basic? What if it's not polished enough?
That's a common fear. But remember, the goal of an MVP is to learn not to impress. It's about getting your product in front of real customers as quickly as possible to gather feedback and iterate.
So it's better to have an imperfect product that you can learn from than a perfect product that nobody uses.
Exactly. And remember, even the most successful companies started with humble beginnings. Facebook started as a simple website for Harvard students. Amazon started as an online bookstore. Don't let perfection be the enemy of progress.
I love that. So we've talked about validated learning and MVPs, but once you've validated your idea and you're ready to scale, how do you make sure your growth is sustainable?
That's a great question. And this is where Ries introduces the concept of growth engines, the mechanisms that drive sustainable growth for your business.
Okay, so it's not just about acquiring customers, it's about acquiring them in a way that keeps them coming back for more.
Precisely. And Ries outlines three primary growth engines: the sticky engine, the viral engine, and the paid engine.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these engines.
The sticky engine is all about retaining your existing customers. It's about creating a product or service that people love so much that they stick around and keep using it.
So it's like building a loyal following. Customers who become advocates for your brand.
Exactly. And a great example of a company that uses the sticky engine effectively is Netflix. They've created a platform that's so addictive and personalized that it's hard to imagine life without it.
They've definitely mastered the art of keeping customers engaged. What about the viral engine?
The viral engine is all about leveraging word-of-mouth marketing to spread awareness and acquire new customers. Think about products like Dropbox or Spotify. They encourage users to share their experiences and invite their friends.
Ah, the power of virality. It's like creating a chain reaction of growth.
Exactly. And a classic example of the viral engine is Hotmail. They added a simple line to the bottom of every email sent through their service: "Get your free email at Hotmail." This simple tweak turned their users into walking billboards, and it helped them acquire millions of new users in record time.
Wow, that's incredible. It shows that even small changes can have a huge impact on growth.
They can. And finally, we have the paid engine, which relies on advertising and paid marketing efforts to acquire new customers. This is a more traditional approach, but it can still be very effective when done right.
So each engine has its own strengths and weaknesses. How do you know which engine is right for your business?
That's a great question. And Ries emphasizes that the best engine for your business depends on a number of factors, including your product, your target market, and your budget.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach to growth.
Exactly. And it's important to choose the engine that aligns with your overall business strategy. You might even use a combination of engines at different stages of your growth. But the key is to master one engine before trying to tackle them all.
Focus is key. But what happens when you've chosen an engine and you're putting in the effort, but things just aren't working as planned?
Well, that's where things can get tricky. And it brings us back to the importance of validated learning and being willing to adapt.
You mean being willing to pivot?
Exactly. Sometimes even when you've done your research and chosen what you thought was the right path, you need to be willing to change course based on what you learn along the way.
Okay, so pivoting isn't just about responding to failure. It's also about responding to new information and changing circumstances.
Precisely. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore the different types of pivots and how to know when it's time to make a change.
Sounds good. This is getting really interesting. But before we move on, I want to remind our listeners that if you're finding this deep dive valuable, please hit that subscribe button like this episode and share it with your friends. We appreciate your support. All right, so we've talked about validated learning MVPs and growth engines. But I have a feeling some of our listeners might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but what about when things get tough? How do you deal with the setbacks and the uncertainty?
That's a really important question. And one of the things that Ries emphasizes in the lean startup is that the entrepreneurial journey is rarely a straight line. There are going to be bumps in the road, unexpected challenges, and moments where you might feel like giving up.
So how do you stay resilient and keep moving forward when those tough times hit?
Well, one of the most important things is to remember that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone on the path to success.
I love that reframing. It takes the sting out of those inevitable setbacks.
Exactly. And Ries talks about the concept of achieving failure, which is successfully executing a plan that turns out to be flawed. It's about learning from those mistakes and using those lessons to inform your next move.
So it's not about avoiding failure altogether. It's about failing intelligently and extracting valuable insights from those experiences.
Precisely. And another key to resilience is having a strong support system. Surround yourself with people who believe in your vision, who can offer encouragement and advice when things get tough, and who can celebrate your wins along the way.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders and coaches in your corner.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of connecting with other entrepreneurs who are going through similar challenges. Sharing your experiences, learning from each other's mistakes, and celebrating each other's successes can make a huge difference in your entrepreneurial journey.
That sense of community can be so powerful, knowing you're not alone in the trenches.
Absolutely. And Ries talks about different types of pivots that startups might need to make along the way. These aren't signs of failure, but rather course corrections based on what you've learned.
So it's about being flexible and adapting your approach as you gather more data and insights.
Right. For example, you might start with a certain target customer in mind, but then realize through your experiments that your product actually resonates with a different segment of the market. That would be a customer segment pivot.
So you adjust your focus to align with where you're seeing the most traction.
Exactly. Or you might start with a certain problem you're trying to solve, but then discover that there's a different problem that's more pressing for your customers. That would be a customer problem pivot.
It's all about staying attuned to what your customers are telling you, even if it means shifting gears from your initial plan.
Exactly. And sometimes the pivot might involve changing your technology platform, your pricing model, or even your entire business model. The key is to be open to change and to use the data you've gathered to make informed decisions.
This has been such an insightful conversation. The Lean Startup really offers a powerful framework for navigating the uncertainty of the entrepreneurial journey.
It does.
Hmm.
And I think one of the most important takeaways is that building a successful business is not about having all the answers up front. It's about having the courage to experiment, the humility to learn from your mistakes, and the resilience to keep moving forward even when things get tough.
Well said. A huge thank you to Teacher Ricky for producing this show. We couldn't do it without you. And listeners, if you have any book or topic suggestions for future deep dives, please let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from our amazing community.
Yes, please share your thoughts. And be sure to tell us where you're tuning in from. We're always excited to connect with fellow learners and entrepreneurs from all over the world.
So until next time, keep experimenting, keep
Yeah.
learning, and keep building those incredible businesses